Hey families and students, Mr. Panza here. It's about that time for a test, and we've been working on this question. How do we use multiplication? We've actually used a bunch of different things when we've been reviewing using this Jeopardy game most recently, and these are the most areas that we've studied. Fact families, single-digit multiplication, double-digit multiplication, arrays, and number sentences. And tonight you're going to have the opportunity to practice all of these skills with your students, so please make sure you take the time to watch the video and go through the different steps of these problems with your student so they can do the best they absolutely can on their test tomorrow. Whenever you see this word product, the students know that in order to find a product, you're taking a factor, which is any number that is multiplied by another number, which is a factor, to equal a product. So don't be scared by that number. Just remember that product means that you are multiplying two numbers together. So in this case, you can multiply in two different ways. I'm going to show you the place value method in this one, and then I will show you the lattice method in question number 2. So if I'm taking this single-digit multiplication problem, I'm lining up the place values, and I just simply start with ones, then the tens, then the 100. I multiply this 4 times each place value. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry my 1, bring down my 2. And some students will add a little plus mark so they remember they need to add that 1 up there when they continue to multiply. 4 times 4, 4, 8, 12, 16 plus 1, 17. So I carry my 1, I bring down my 7. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and I get 972. That's the place value method. Now, finding a lattice method, you can use this in any multiplication problem, whether it's two-digit or single-digit. In a single-digit multiplication, you set up a 4-square box, and then you set up your diagonal lines. These diagonal lines will come in to be very important later, so make sure that if your student is using lattice, they are taking their time to make it nice and neat so that they can organize their work. It really just sets up the place values. And then you put the numbers you need up top. Now you notice that I'm off by 1, so I need to draw an extra lattice box. In this case, I'm just going to drag it onto my end here because I have a 3-digit number. And I just continue with my diagonals. And I add my number 7, and the number 6 goes on the outside. So in this case, 7 times 6 is 42. 6, 12, 18, 24. And 30. How did I get those numbers? I multiplied 7 times 6, 6 times 4, and 6 times 5. Again, started with the ones, then the tens, then the hundreds. Now in this case, I don't have another number down here. If I did, I would multiply this bottom number by all 3 digits, and then I would add everything in the diagonal. But in this case, I just drag down the numbers that are there. If I have 2 numbers in the same diagonal, I add them because multiplication is simply nothing but repeated addition. 4 plus 4 is 8. 2, bring down, and bring down my 3. So my answer here is 3,282. Let's continue with the review. In this case, as I had mentioned above in this multiplication question, multiplication is nothing but repeated addition. So stop the students if they start to multiply this question because that means they're not really understanding what the question is asking. What does the smiley face represent? Well, I've got 3 smiley faces with 2 plus marks. So all that's saying is if I am multiplying 6,752 times 3, I am just taking 6,752 and adding it 3 times together. So my smiley face is equal to 6,752 because multiplication is nothing but repeated addition. Here's a number sentence question. Lauren has 13 buttons. Dominic has 3 times as many buttons. Write a number sentence and show how many buttons Dom had. Well, if Lauren had 13 buttons and Dominic had 3 times as many, you just take Lauren's number and multiply it by 3. And in order to find how many Dom had, you take Lauren's number and multiply it by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. That means Dom had 39 buttons. An array is nothing but a picture of columns and rows that represent a product or multiplication. In this case, 11 by 2. So I'm going to set up 2 rows of 11. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now I have to do the same on the bottom because an array represents all of the different numbers, and the great thing about this is it shows the students that multiplication again is nothing but repeated addition, because when you add 11 and 11, you're going to get 22, or 11 times 2, which is nothing but repeated addition, and there are 22 x's. You don't need to draw x's, you can draw boxes or something else you're more comfortable with. Let's move on to the back page. Finding the product again. First, I'm going to show you the place value method. 76 times 33. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry my 1. Bring down my 8. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 1 is 22. And then I taught the students to do what we call dropping the egg. The reason we drop that egg is because this 3 is not actually worth 3 at all. It's worth 30. And then we multiply 6 times 3, which is 18. So again, since I'm done with this one and I'm done with that one, I can bring up my 1, bring down my 8, and 7 times 3 again is 21, plus 1 is 22. And again, because multiplication is nothing but repeated addition, add these numbers together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry my 1, bring down my 0. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. And then bring down my 2. The lattice method, very similar. Now I apologize if I'm going a little bit too fast, but remember, you can always pause the video. You can always rewind the video. You can always just see exactly how my strategy works by manipulating the video to what works for you. So I've got a 3-digit number times a 2-digit number. So I'm going to put my 3 digits up top. Very similar to how we did the first one. But if you remember, we only had one number on the side in the first problem. This time we have 2. Now the only thing I didn't add at this point are my diagonals. And remember, it's very important. I'm not being so neat, and the students are going to need to be neater because if they're not, then it's really going to cause some issues. I multiply everything out. I start at the top, and I move right to left. 3 times 3 is 9. Which gets placed in my lattice as 0, 9. 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 times 2 is 6. Then 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. And 9 times 2 is 18. Now again, look at your diagonals and just add them, and make sure you're adding from right to left. I bring down my 7. I add 6 plus 8 plus 9, which is 17, which means I need to carry a 1 and bring down my 7. Then I add 8 plus 3 plus 2, which is 13, plus 1 is 14. Carry my 1, bring down my 4. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 1 more is 8, plus 1 more is 9. And I have nothing up there, so my answer is 9,477. The final problem tonight is a difficult problem. There's 2 steps to it, and the students are going to see a problem just like this on their test tomorrow. Please help them take their time so they understand what they are answering here. Cindy is selling cell phones. In her first year, notice how I'm setting up a picture, she sells 4 phones. In her second year, she sells 2 times as many. So that is her first year times 2, which equals 8. Now make sure they're reading the question specifically because, again, in her third year she sells 3 times as many as her first year, not of this 8. So in her third year, if the students keep it organized, nice and neat, they should be okay. They take the first year, which again was 4, and they multiply it by 3 because she sold 3 times as many that year. 4 times 3 is 12. How many cell phones did Cindy sell in all 3 years? Well, all you have to do is add 12 plus 8 plus 4. And in this case, 16 plus 8 is 24. She sold 24 phones. And in the bottom question, all they have to do is multiply 112 times 24. And I'm going to let you guys do that one on your own. I hope this helped you study with your student, and I thank you for stopping by because it certainly will help them. Have a great night.